As we all know from living in the Pacific Northwest, the weather here is guaranteed to be two things: cold and wet. I'm sure you've all done your own research into finding the warmest and driest layers you can, but what if I told you that Coast Salish people, and particularly Cowichan people, have come up with a solution that they've been using for well over 100 years? Well, today I'll be teaching you about the Cowichan sweater. I'll begin by sharing with you the materials and the processes necessary to creating one, as well as the origins, and conclude by sharing with you the harm that imitation sweaters have on Coast Salish people. My grandfather is Cowichan, and though I never had much of a chance to ask him about his culture or upbringing, this knowledge inspired me to do my own research, and the Cowichan sweater stuck out as salient to me. The Cowichan sweater has a rich history that combines European and Coast Salish techniques. The history here begins with Cowichan origin stories and blanket weaving practices. In Sylvia Olson's 2010 novel, Working with Wool, she explains that when the glaciers in the Vancouver area receded, mountain goat populations began to flourish. And it is said that the first Cowichan woman was seen by the first Cowichan man working the wool of these sacred goats. From there, blanket weaving practices emerged, and it is of note that Coast Salish blankets are some of the most vibrant and intricate among the West Coast. Practices shifted a bit after the arrival of European settlers, though, and Olson explains that there are a few theories as to why this is. It could have been because of Shetland immigrants like Jeremy Colvin teaching them how to knit, or because of institutions like the Sisters of St. Anne and the Roman Catholic Church trying to assimilate these populations via means of missionaries and residential schools. Regardless, Coast Salish women made the practice their own and took these new European techniques and combined them with traditional blanket weaving practices to forge the beginnings of the Cowichan sweater. Clearly, there is a rich history here, but what makes a sweater genuine Cowichan? Well, there are specific requirements that must be met. As it is explained in an article by Reagan Strum in a 2018 entry to the Canadian Encyclopedia titled Cowichan Sweaters, thick natural yarn must be used, and it must be homespun and unprocessed. Additionally, double-pointed knitting needles must be used, which leads me to the practices involved. Cowichan sweaters are knit in the round, meaning that they take on a tube shape as they are being made, and they are knit in one piece, as you can see here. Additionally, Cowichan sweaters must be of traditional Coast Salish designs, and inspiration for these designs typically come from the blankets that I mentioned earlier, as well as familial symbols, and these symbols are passed down from generation to generation. Historically, this symbolism was used in lieu of a written language, so they convey stories and meaning. Crucially though, these sweaters must be made by a Coast Salish knitter, which I feel like is pretty obvious. So far, I've shared with you the origins of these sweaters and the materials necessary, but I will now share with you an unfortunate trend regarding these sweaters. The circulation of imitation Cowichan sweaters continues to harm Coast Salish people and appropriate their culture. In a 2018 article from the Journal of Canadian Art History titled Celebration or Craftsploitation, author Elizabeth Kalbfleisch explains that around the 1930s, popularity regarding the Cowichan sweater took off, particularly among non-native people. This led to a subsequent skyrocket in prices of materials, including yarn, which led to Coast Salish knitters not being able to access materials as easily, which led to their production becoming inconsistent. With this increase in demand and decrease in production, manufacturers took it upon themselves to fill the gap and make imitation sweaters. These are some modern examples showing how this problem persists into the modern day. A prime example of the circulation of these imitation sweaters comes from the Olympics, though. In a 2017 article titled Knitting for Our Lives, also by Reagan Strum, from the journal Articulate, she explains that the Hudson Bay Company was responsible for making merchandise for the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics. There was almost immediate outrage over the release of these sweaters because of the clearly appropriated designs and lack of disregard for traditional materials and techniques used in creating a genuine Cowichan. These are mass manufactured after all. There was also outrage over the fact that these sweaters take away money from Coast Salish families, who often partially rely, if not entirely rely, on the income they make from selling their sweaters. Strum concludes that imitation sweaters like these and their circulation are highly appropriative and contribute to colonization. Today, I have taught you about the beautiful Cowichan sweater. I began by sharing with you its evolution, combining local and foreign culture and practicality. Then I shared with you the materials and processes necessary to creating a genuine Cowichan, and concluded by sharing with you the harm that non-native demand and commodification have on Coast Salish economies and culture. Cowichan sweaters are amazing garments, and I hope that the next time you see somebody wearing one, you can take a moment to recognize all of the effort and history that go into each one.